Alright, so what is the plan? What is the player's plan? If you don't know that, you need to find out. The chapter itself, pretty sparsely written other than what pieces both sides have. Page 86, final battle assets. Okay, there's a list of each things, but let's look at who's gonna, or is anybody going to attack the Drakehorn? That is constantly, and then calling dragons from far and wide, letting everyone know that the battle is underway, or an attack is being made, or the ritual's in process. Overhead of the caldera are dragons flying around in defense. Hopefully the players know that there's some kind of summoning of Tiamat going on by now, so a ritual is going to be taking place. They need to stop that. Thousands or hundreds, whatever, of prisoners who are going to be sacrificed in order to power the ritual, or just as a sacrifice to Tiamat. Do they need rescuing? There are 3 entrances shown on the map, and I guess there's the open mouth of the volcano at the top. So enemy number 1 is Severin the Red, with his dragon masks made up of however many, maybe not, probably not all 5. He has those powers. He is your last climatic battle. So let's work backwards. He and the other towers, the coloured towers, I made this map, the coloured towers, they need to be in spheres so that they can't just be wiped out. They're in protective shields that you can only access by going into the bottom of the little towers, the turrets, and going up and facing one-on-one each wizard. Their dragon masks or their rituals all power Severin's giant bubble, which you can't enter until all the little bubbles are taken care of. Now, hey, this is just me throwing some ideas out there and how I ran it. But that's what we need, isn't it? We need inspiration, we need ideas. Now, we were sort of plodding through this quite fast, I realise. We're summarising, and the longer you watch, hopefully the more nitty-gritty I will go into. But not everyone has the time to watch all these videos. So what assets have you got? Do you have Skyreach Castle? Now, Skyreach Castle can come out of the clouds and cause a diversion to the dragons surrounding the opening at the top. The players could be on that. The players might not be. I think my players said the Skyreach Castle comes out of the clouds, and from the opposite side, the metallic dragons come in and fight off with the chromatic. While they snuck in the forgotten entrance, which has been scouted out by Harper informants or whatever. And that basically takes them, rather helpfully, straight into Area 22. The sinkhole, so they can climb up and into the ritual area. But with all those factions and all their allies and resources, you need to do little cinematic set pieces to describe all the different attacks. Who's attacking from this entrance and the ground? You have red wizards. You have hordes of soldiers to attack the entrances. But my players soon twigged onto, surely somebody or many wizards know Meteor Swarm. Out of all the factions we've got, someone. And I was like, oof, that's a bit of a game breaker. Meteor Swarm is deadly. I rolled a d6 and they got maybe 5 or 6. That was enough. I tried to think about that. Should I allow it? Yes, I've got to allow it, but how can I make it work for me? I thought, okay, if that's your opening gambit, Meteor Swarm, and then everyone attacks Skyreach Castle, blah, blah, blah. Then that kind of muddies the map up a little bit and makes it easier for me, because they go, the map doesn't really matter then. I can just say, go down to turn to the left, it's blocked off now. Turn to the right, people are burning. And you're then in this room, and it's just a bit more freewheeling. All then you have to be, because they don't necessarily see the map, although that is an option, showing them the map and saying, where do you want to go next? Printing it on the TV, printing it out, or do what I did, and this is more for my benefit. I put 4 pieces of paper together. The black line is Caldera, and outer right, you can't see it. I'll film it properly. It just shows what's en route. I've dotted some monsters about and what they encounter. Because whether you're using little maps or not, you can spread little maps out on the table and you go from this and you walk down the corridor and you're there. And having them sort of pre-populated is going to make it a little bit easier. Is anyone going to take care of the horn? Is anyone going to rescue the prisoners? This could be NPCs. You can say, Lord's Alliance, you take care of the prisoners, get them out of there. And I would even, if you want to go quite random, like prisoner pens, 16, 17 and 18, 1 dragon wing, 2 dragon claws and a guard drake. You could do that, or you could take a d4 for for a guard drake, a d6 for something else, and a different coloured d6 for something else, and you just roll every time. If you want to use the same things over and over, I'd make them fight some cultists, of course I would. But then there's all sorts of things who could have been taken in by the small-minded promises of the cult. Giants. You don't have every giant on your side, players. These giants believe in the cult. Ettins, ogres. You know, this is your chance to throw all sorts of things into these tunnels. But a mini boss is walking the corridors. You can dump him where you want. It is the white called Neagoth Bladelord. Hopefully somebody will try and fight him, being like the commander of what's going on outside of the ritual. And it's just a good fight. But he won't be alone. Have people, things on his side. I would say even you can split the party in this instance to go from Group A to Group B to Group C. And it's a finale. Everyone's expecting it to be epic. Try and make it seem epic. So there are many different types of combat as they make their way into the central place, which, as I say, is a temple of Tiamat, which has risen out of the floor. And the whole place is covered with bones and dragon bones. Difficult terrain, I would say. Now, I spread out a huge table of minis and said, okay, where do you want to go? Pick your route and what you pass, which model you pass on the way, you have to fight. Now, you can describe it cinematically if you want, let them DM it for a bit and say, okay, describe the fight to me, what spells you have that you would use, and let's look at what main attack that monster has and how you would deal with those attacks. Let them play the hero. This is their time to feel like their high levels were earned and are able to be useful. So let them at it. There's thousands of enemies here. How do you kill these 25 goblins coming towards you? And most importantly, as they're travelling up a corridor, don't forget to give them that sense of huge battle outside, huge bangs echoing through the chambers, flashes of magic down corridors, ahead of them, behind them, at the side of them, shrieks and screams suddenly stopping, only to be met with that horn again. Dragon breath coming through the roof where they are. Make them feel small in a huge war until they get to the caldera. They cross to each of the bottom of the towers. The towers are guarded by... What are they guarded by? Well, you can use whatever you want. There's barbed devils mentioned in here. So at the bottom of each tower, I would have someone else to dispel of. And then you have, blue chapel, white chapel, green chapel, blah, blah, blah. If you look on my map, there is Galen, the blue wizard, at the top of this one, with a circle around it, that you can shoot at him from beneath, is what I mean. You have to go up the tower into the sphere. So you battle your way across whichever order you want, but you've got Talis the White on the white tower. You have a green wizard, a black wizard, Rathmadar as the red wizard, and then the Great Asp. Which, if you look here, I've put huge demon monsters smushing prisoners and prisoners chained. This guy, they've basically been led to their death. It's been pummeled into mush and their souls maybe transported up into the area of Severin. There's also the rules if you want to count rounds. 10 rounds with at least 5 wizards doing the ritual. On a fail, the 13, Severin's area, wavers and no progress is made. That's my note. 2 successful fails and you have to start the ritual again. Apparently it says on page 87. I couldn't be bothered with that. I've got enough on. I don't need mechanics for the ritual. I just decide how the ritual is going from how the enemies, the heroes, are doing. Now, I had some players who had been in it on and off, not sure for the finale, and I had thought about, if no player comes, this is how they're going to die at my hands. This is the last game. So I cinematically described them being killed. They no-showed. And it was good for the characters who played to witness their demise in a show of power, basically. Now, if any player goes down, you've always got allies, NPCs, soldiers, to come over and medicine check. So at this point, unless they die to a monster in a fight and you think it's necessary or cool, then I probably wouldn't kill players off too easy. If I crit them, then fair enough. You can kill them, but consider bringing them back. by some magical healing from allies. I think it's cool to die in the finale as a player. I've tested it, my players don't share that ideal. So yeah, you've got metallic dragons that can come to the rescue, arcane brotherhood, firing spells. What we had, and even though this isn't allowed, we had a halfling be enlarged. Somebody else cast enlarge on him, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. It doesn't really work like that, but it was cool, and we remember it. All around you, you've got perhaps druids, wizards, rogues. Look at what their main thing is, and have that going on in the distance. Flowers and vines entangling people, an army of plants. Think about it. You could have 100 badgers feather falling, because they're druids, down from Skyreach Castle, and you see it starts raining badgers, and then they all turn into druids and make areas difficult terrain. Just don't think of the mechanics too much, think of the imagery and how cool it is. Then you swoop down, the camera swoops down to where the characters are and play normal. Right, let's look a little bit deeper. Now this little map works as a way into that hidden entrance, or I guess any of the entrances into the volcano itself. I would then use this Warhammer 4 quadrant map. Moonbase Clasis, I always call it. One side city, I guess, and the other side, well, I'm using it for Avernus's Hell at the moment. But for walking around inside the volcano, this has some decent maps in. This is a nice one for caves. That's what they're going to be walking around. Plonk your enemies and allies through that, that'll work. Similar, but different enough. Just, so they're working their way through different areas, and you can use the descriptions in the book. But if you are splitting the party and you want to describe 3 or 4 things happening at once, you could have one where the players are, and the rest, just set them up with your models and describe what might be happening in that zone. This Loki Battle Mats one also has some useful tunnels in for you to work your way through, so they feel like they're travelling. Now the place isn't volcanic. I thought it was when I ran it, so I would have been very tempted if I had these to use these maps. They're cool for your little encounters. And maybe the Severin on top of this raised platform with Tiamat pounding around in Avernus, looking up, hoping to come through when the ritual's complete. That's pretty cool. Or as I say, the tactical maps also has lava-based ones. You can have fire methods or any fire-related elementals or whatever you decide. We've been through these before, but get yourself some Dragon Wing, Dragon Claw, Dragon Fang stats wrote out. What's this bearded devil? For whatever reason. This was before I had invested in the cards. Pull out your monsters, maybe blue tack them to a large sheet so you can refer to them easily and quickly. It's a little bit better than flicking through the monster manual. Of course, yes, if you are online, might not be as much of a problem. I just prefer real life. So here we have some allies, and they're barricaded from getting any further by bugbears and bad cultists, etc. This could just be a scene, or you could play this out with the heroes dotted around and how they're going to break through the barricade. Just think about not only what's going on, but what could happen, who could come along. A dragon from behind could just annihilate these. Think in movie scenes rather than mechanics. You can populate the board with many minis, spread them around and say which route are you wanting to take to whichever tower. Severin's on top, and they're kind of colour coded, black, red, over there is blue. Severin. You can easily whip these off when you get down to it and open up a map for the interior of each tower. Right, to my notes, to my piece of paper. Does one of your players have the sword Hazaron from Resmir, I think it was, and the black dragon mask? My son had that, and it corrupted him. The players didn't know. My players had already bought an airship from treasure they'd found. So my son was saying, I'm turning evil and I'm going to fly this airship suicidally into the volcano at the end of the campaign. So this was between me and him. And on this airship they kept finding weird signs written on the walls, because my son would get up at night in the game and carve Vecna details into the ship, but nobody knew why. However, my son had a spell book for real where he put spell cards in, and he would add like black designs to it and see if the players noticed that week to week his spell book was becoming evil as well and corrupt. So this is why his character Timmy, I said, can I have your character die on the battlefield and be revived by Vecna? Come back with black eyes and you're now a revenant. And he loved the idea because he knew he was going to betray them. He found a rock on the floor, and I had a real rock with a face drawn on it because that was the description in DMG or something. And he called it Bob, and it eventually grew into an Azer. It was going to be an altar flame golem from Creature Codex. So I had that to think about. Vistra, another character, she loved Palo, and so her weapon would begin to glow just because it's cool. Zanhand, the real goody-goody paladin, wings. He grew wings, I remember that. Mr. Thief, the rogue, he just loved potatoes. And I put Massive Potato rolling with arrows stuck in. I think he probably invented that. Ben was like a Legolas type character, being cool on the battlefield. Yogi, character who didn't turn up, so he's dead as a sacrifice against Talis the White. Charlie, he stabs daggers in a demon's eyes while riding it, saying, I never expected the end of the world to be so much fun. Now that's a character, I put words in his mouth, a player, and loved it. My notes for Neagoth is that the characters think he's dead from a fall, but he gets up like a true villain. Don't forget about Snapjaw, who came riding dinosaurs, and Makath the Crimson casts glyphs. I was thinking like mines, when enemies run over them, they explode. Write yourself some cool ideas, basically. Then I'm imagining that these are what I found to be in the book. So giants outside, I put giants outside, the entrance to sea, dragon, see what they are. They're already there in the book. So it just helps me. The prisoners come in this way, they get escorted up, they end up, there's prison cells all around. So if the players decide to go that way, these end up getting siphoned all the while they're manacled, and the prisoners go up that way into the caldera, and that was just my mini caldera. The entrance, the secret entrance, that's the way they want you to come in. The cave in was now cleared. You can go up to the ravine. It's a sinkhole, it's 30 foot deep, there's bones, 5 foot bones inside, all dragon bones. So yeah, you can repopulate these with different villains if you wish. I have a room where they can find new weapons if they want, restock arrows, etc. Giants on the outside hanging onto the rocks of the volcano. High-ranking cultist chambers. Just a lot of beds, really. Some other entrances. Down the west side is the Drakehorn, Stone Golem Guard, and Air Elemental constantly blowing it. Alright, looks like I put a puzzle. It looks like I put a little puzzle to get into this room and then down to the Drakehorn. Art objects, valuable books, all fine things, magic items to be found. Oh, the main treasure hoard room. Looks like there's a puzzle on this one too. I put Nagoth there, but it can be anywhere. Barricades, wooden towers along the route. Demons around 1A entrance. Treasure being brought in by wagons. There was talk of them disguising themselves and coming in with cultists this way. A little note on Nagoth's quarters there. Thousands of creatures on the outside of the northeast volcano. And I've done a little doodle here of what I pictured the Temple of Tiamat to be like. The coloured towers surrounding Severins. And then I did a better drawing of the caldera. Again, it was just to try and familiarise myself with what was going on. So just positioning of which wizards were where and the door at the top. Alright, so if you're still with me, let's go over some more things, maybe in more detail. The map shows entrance 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B. Okay, so there's more. I thought there were only 3, but as we saw on my map, there are plenty more. But number 3 is the one that is supposedly secret, less known. That is the way to sneak in, and you're in. Yeah, these rooms, as I say, can be anywhere, as far as I'm concerned. Corridors, there's nothing to them, okay? Dragons can move through them, so it's all go, as far as I'm concerned. They're all lit, and sound is the thing you want to impact. Maybe going up a corridor, there's a growl of something, and you can have a history check of finding out what that is, whether it's a demon or a devil or whatever you've thrown their way. Bunch of cultists, a Yeah, they need to be there, but they're not the highlight of what's going on here. But do like the thing with that, what I did with the bugbears and the barricades. Make it interesting at least. 3's the forgotten entrance we've discussed. Right, Neagoth. Now he has an axe to grind with Severin, so there's a possibility of him helping in some way. Doesn't sit well with me. I want him to be an enemy because look at him, he's cool. He's cool. But he's been shunted out of the way, it says. Maybe upon approaching him, you hear him telling other cult members in an angry manner, you do as I say, I'm just as important as Severin. Severin just happens to be chosen over me. But if you don't do as I say, I will kill you myself. So you can kind of float the idea that, okay, maybe we can use this guy. They probably won't. They'll probably just try and kill him. 5 is an unused chamber, which I guess it's a rest area, really. Main treasure chamber, 2 flesh golems, some annoying guard drakes. Sprinkle them. Just sprinkle them wherever you want. Treasure chamber, but there's too much to carry. There's so much, and you can't find... Oh, I wonder if they have a wand of magic missiles and next to fireballs. They probably do somewhere, but this isn't what you've come to do. Spend 3 hours searching through hordes. Tease them with it, but it's really up to you whether you do. I would probably pull out 3 random magic cards because I have those cards, and I would say find these 3 things. And they might want them, they might not. You want them to win, okay? You want them to feel elated that they played this game, and they love getting magic items. And it's Christmas for them. The Drake Horn makes you roll a save. Don't forget that. There's an air elemental and a stone golem, and some cultists will come. Some more rooms where they can skulk about. Prisoners and their guards. I would save the red wizards to be only the ones on the ritual temples. The others outside fighting off all your allies. So you mentioned some devils here, so you can throw any devils you want, I would say. Severin's red wizards use the mage stats. Yeah, you can throw in some surprise spells. There's no rules. They'd be throwing everything at the players. So I'm still not sure whether this is sort of saying there's 2 sets of coloured towers. Do it how I showed. Yep, final battle assets. The masks. You need to look into what the masks grant Severin and yourself, the player. You have your own red wizards as well. You have your own devils, maybe. You have assassins. Make sure the players know what they can do, and possibly they can say, can we say that the Order of the Gauntlet do this? Help them out even, or heal, or do special moves. If someone's wearing a black mask, they would want that. That's very important to make Tiamat come back. Not completely necessary, but would really help. So yeah, devils who don't want to see Tiamat come through. Skyreach Castle, you can crash that into the volcano. You've probably read through how the book says to track the ritual and stuff. I just don't see the point. So if you make a card, Dragonclaw, AC 14, maybe even do average damage. They have 2 attacks, which is +5 and 6 damage every time. And you do that for each of the cult members. You just really narrows down what cards you need for the final bit. Or you can write it out in full if you really must, but you can simplify it for yourself. Okay, so Neagoth. AC 18. 3 attacks and he can life drain. Try and use the life drain. That will scare him. Like Rathmodar. Don't need to have all these spells. Just simplify them into attack spell, a counter spell, fireball, magic missile at the highest level possible. 6th level of this guy. Really hit them hard first. It's alright if you kill them. Probably won't. And if you do, you can fix it. Severin the Red. Do full health. He has the Mask of the Dragon Queen. Look at those features. Severin can ignite the enemy. He has 5 legendary resistances, which I'd never seen 5. And so I hope that's as much of a surprise to your players as it was to me. So yeah, these actions are all decent. 40 fire damage on average. Beautiful. You can teleport, wrap people in chains of fire, or make an extra attack. Tiamat, you shouldn't be realistically needing to use it. And if you do need a proper stat block, I would look in Descent into Avernus. It's got a much better one than this. So the mask itself, depending on which mask he has, you gain damage absorption. obviously reducing like resistant or whatever it is, if you have a look, of the cold for the blue mask, acid for the black or necrotic, whichever. You can look it up. It's not me who's running it, I've run it. So simplify it, but make it cool. It might take you a couple of sessions, which could be hours and hours. Hit the party as hard as your dice will allow. On the flip side, let them find a magical item, maybe, or 2 or 3, and cinematic save them, cinematic attack a horde of enemies for them, and don't forget roleplay. There won't be much time for it, but there'll be a lot being shouted about reposition, attack, don't let them get away, kill them, keep them back. These things get said. Don't forget the prisoners being murdered for their souls to energize the ritual. And of course, have fun. And let me know how it goes. Woo! Can't believe I reached the end myself. Hey, good luck. I'll see you later.